This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Can I tie all the knots the Flying Dutchman did in SpongeBob? Let's find out.
Picture this, it's 2001. You just got home from school, you lose the backpack, get into some comfy inside clothes, pour yourself some cereal, and turn on the TV to this. Just pure joy at the time. I've always loved SpongeBob as a kid, although I would always watch it with the volume way too high, and I think that might have messed up my grades. But no, I can't blame SpongeBob. He really got me through some tough times. Anyhow, remember that episode, Your Shoes Untied, where the Flying Dutchman tied a bunch of knots? Well, it started out with
the Pretzel Knot.
The pretzel knot that the Flying Dutchman tied is most definitely referred to as a pretzel knot, but we've seen this one many times on the channel referred to as the Carrick's Bend. It's sort of the first half of tying a diamond knot. The Carrick's Bend is actually a reliable knot you can use to tie two ends of rope together and join them by cinching the knot closed. Now, speaking of the Carrick's Bend and the next knot that he tied, it was actually the double diamond knot. And a double diamond knot unfortunately doesn't look anything like that in real life. We've tied the diamond knot a ton of times on this channel, but the double diamond knot is literally the diamond knot, but the cords have been doubled. And while I was making this video and figuring out all the knots that the Flying Dutchman tied, I could really see that the Flying Dutchman is quite a skilled individual, despite being a ghost and a cartoon. That being said, learning and knowing different skills is quite important. For example, I've always wanted to learn another language. Growing up in Canada, we have to learn French up until grade 9, but since then, I haven't gone any further than that. A couple weeks ago, I went to Montreal with my family and realized that speaking French can actually be a useful language. And also my niece is currently in French immersion, so I figure why not pick up some French? And what's making this quite easy to get into is today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with a multitude of classes you can take. Now, I might be trying to learn some French to converse with my niece, but if you're into something different, there's so much more to choose from, including drawing, photography, and even macrame and self-development. Or if you want to become a YouTuber like yours truly, you can do that too. So the first 500 people that use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today and follow the link down below. But getting back to my knot work here, with that, my double diamond knot has been tied, and as you can see, it's quite different from what the Flying Dutchman actually tied. Next up, the square knot. Now, I'm not here to start any wars, but the other day I got a comment on a video using the cobra knot, and the person was all, "That's not a cobra knot, that's a classical macrame square knot. Why do you paracord dudes have to pretend that you invented everything?" Now, first off, as a paracord dude, I never claimed that we invented everything. We just made it cooler than you macrame people. Kidding, don't at me please. Now, I am fully aware that the knot we refer to as a cobra knot or Solomon knot is known as a square knot in the macrame community. But guess what? This ain't the macrame community. And the last thing we're going to call this is a square knot bracelet. The square knot we know is actually this one, and it's also known as the reef knot. Another great way to join two cords. The reef knot shown here, as I mentioned, is also known as a square knot, and it's a great binding knot for when safety is not a concern. The Constrictor Knot, for once the Flying Dutchman's version, kinda looks like the actual knot. Well, not really, but it does function similarly. The Constrictor Knot is a great and simple knot that you can use to tie some sticks together or close the top of a sack, anytime you need to constrict something. The Gut Knot. Okay, so there is no gut knot, unfortunately, although that would be really cool. But as far as I know, and in my thorough research of Googling it, I could not find a gut knot. So I was able to emulate the cartoon gut knot with just a bunch of hastily tied overhand knots. The pillow knot. Again, there is no actual pillow knot, and what we're looking at is more or less rope that's been woven together using a basket weave style of weaving. Easy to do with paracord, just use a simple over and under pattern. Kind of like how you would arrange the layers of a pastry on a pie. I love apple pie, by the way. How about you? Now, could you make a pillow with this knot? I mean, I suppose you could if you made 2 layers large enough and then you stitched them together with some pillow stuffing inside, but I have a feeling that wouldn't be very comfy. Anyhow, I'm getting off topic, but I use this over-under basket weave technique to make a slim paracord card holder wallet. So you can check that out if you want to see more. The butterfly knot. Now, this knot can actually be made with paracord, believe it or not. Now, I've got a full tutorial for this one as well, but it's just a diamond knot and a couple of square knots. I mean cobra knots. I mean Solomon knots, that's right. Fun little project that's great for kids, although they might need some help with the diamond knot. But you just start off with that diamond knot, form a few lobes, and then you secure them with said Solomon knots. Now this one is fun and decorative, but there is an actual practical butterfly knot, which is the alpine butterfly knot. A great knot to segregate a damaged part of your rope, and this is another one of those great little knots to keep in the back of your pocket. The monkey chain is actually better known as the chain sinnet. This chain sinnet is very easily tied. You just make a slip knot, and then from there you pull bites through the previous loop over and over. Make another loop and tuck it into the previous loop. So keep repeating, and when the chain is long enough, you lock it by passing the end through the final loop. This is a great way to shorten a rope and store it tangle free. And of course, if you want to undo the chain, it's super simple. Just undo the end loop and pull. Continuing with the monkey theme, we have the monkey's fist. A knot you've seen not short of a bajillion times on this channel. Now this knot is probably the Flying Dutchman's favorite knot, as the monkey's fist is used to throw a line across a longer distance much more easily, and has always been used for nautical purposes. That being said, other than the typical nautical usage on ships for rigging ropes, the monkey's fist has also been used in the past as a self-defense tool by sailors, as it was also known as a slungshot. The monkey's fist was tied with some rope around a heavy object like a chunk of lead or a rock, which made an easily concealable, silent but deadly weapon. The way the Flying Dutchman finished his monkey's fist seems to be with a twist for the running ends, and I'm going to keep that twist in place with a couple of snake knots. Still illegal in certain places around the world, so be wary of your local laws regarding monkey's fists if you're going to make one with a solid core and carry around. I've discussed this much on my channel before, so refer to those videos if you're curious. This one, however, is just a monkey's fist made with a marble, so I doubt you'll get in any sort of trouble. And finally... Okay, no, just kidding, I won't do that. The one you've all been waiting for, the monkey. And first, we need a ring. Then I'm going to tie a Pretzel knot, but in a slightly different way. Kind of how you would tie a lark's head knot versus a cow's hitch. I'm tying this with the running end starting off going to the left side, and I'm going to end up with the shorter running end on the right. After that, I firm it up, and one last little move here is that the running end is going to pass through the standing end loop one more time to form the thumb of the monkey. Wait a minute, does that also make this a monkey's fist? Okay, no, not really. Anyhow, we're going to repeat the process but mirrored on the other side, this time starting off going to the right side of the standing end and then back to the left side. Running end finishing on the left. By the way, did you know that the Pretzel knot was developed in 1931 by Dr. Karl Prusik? He was the president of the Austrian Mountaineering Club. The principal use of this knot was allowing a rope to be climbed via ascension or Prusicking. 2 Prusik loops are alternatively slid up the static rope to accomplish this. But I'm no climbing expert at all, so you can look more into that on your own. And of course, tuck the running end through the standing end loop on the front to form the opposable thumb that the monkeys have. And for the rest of Mr. Monkey, we start off with a diamond knot. You want to cinch that diamond knot to the very midpoint of the strand. And then from there, the diamond knot piece will be placed over the Pretzel knot strands so that the brown strand is in between the marigold strands. From there, I'm going to tie snake knots. And I tend to tie mine using this slightly modified method with the running ends pointing to the side instead of pointing downwards. But that's just me, of course. Another fun fact, we call these snake knots, but I believe the proper term for them are wall knots. That is when they are tied in this fashion. When the snake knots or wall knots are connected via an alternate method of tying them, that is when I believe they are called snake knots. But I could be wrong. Feel free to roast me in the comments. And after the snake knots, I'm just going to tie a couple of simple overhand knots for the little feet of the monkey. At the top of the diamond knot, you can snip it flush, or you can clip the top strands, let the ends fray, and the monkey will have a bit of hair. It doesn't quite look as detailed as the one tied by the Flying Dutchman, but I think it's the closest we can get. Oh, and what's this? You thought I forgot one, didn't you? The knot that the Flying Dutchman called the loop knot or poop loop? Is that what he said? Anyhow, it's pretty much just a slip knot or noose knot. And no, it doesn't make that sound when you pull it shut. See?